The strangest thing about the letter wasn't the red wax seal. It was the simple fact that no one at Ravenhill Manor remembered opening the front door for it. Tonight's case starts with a quiet winter tea that turns into something much darker. If you enjoy slow-burn mysteries where one small detail wrecks a perfectly normal day, hit subscribe to Inspector Vale so you don't miss what happens next. Winter light lay thin over the lawns of Ravenhill Manor. In the drawing room, the fire burned low, and Miss Evelyn Hart sat close to it with her knitting, listening to the faint tick of the mantel clock and the deeper silence of a big house between visitors. "More tea, Evelyn?" asked Mrs. Clara Redford. Clara owned the place and usually filled it with noise. In the nearby town, people called her lively, generous, the sort who ran fairs and remembered everyone's birthday. Today her smile looked fixed at the edges. She poured tea, added sugar, realized she had already done so, and her gaze kept drifting toward the tall windows. "Thank you, my dear," Evelyn said. "Your Mrs. Potts has surpassed herself. These scones are dangerous." "I'll tell her. She'll pretend not to care and secretly quote you for years," Clara said. Her fingers tapped the arm of her chair. "Arthur's in London all week. Meetings, figures, something about a new fund, so the house is absurdly quiet. I almost miss his complaints about drafts." Evelyn had spent a lifetime in a small village watching people talk around whatever truly bothered them. She let the pause stretch. "And your staff?" she asked. "Cold weather makes work heavier." "They manage. Mrs. Potts terrorizes the kitchen. We've a new housemaid, Maggie Cole from Northbridge, 17, willing, nervous. She broke a milk jug yesterday and nearly sobbed. People were often kind about tiny accidents when larger worries chewed at them." Evelyn only nodded and let her needles click. Footsteps sounded in the corridor, steady, measured. Mr. Bryce, the butler, appeared with a silver tray. He was tall, spare, around 60. His face wore the usual professional calm, but there was a new tightness around his mouth and an extra line between his brows. "Begging your pardon, madam," he said to Clara. On the tray lay a single cream envelope. "This was found on the hall table." "Found," Clara repeated. "Surely you mean delivered, Bryce." "That is the difficulty, madam. No one recalls answering the bell or admitting a caller. I passed through the hall a few minutes ago and saw it lying there. None of the staff claimed to have placed it." Clara reached for the envelope. The color left her face so quickly that Evelyn set her knitting aside. Clara's hand shook. The paper rasped faintly. The envelope was thick, good paper. The address was written in a neat, old-fashioned hand. "Mrs. Clara Redford, private, urgent." The last two words were underlined twice. Clara didn't open the envelope. She simply held it, staring as if the paper itself hummed. Bryce withdrew. Evelyn waited. Silence revealed more than questions ever did. At last Clara whispered, "I know that handwriting, Evelyn. I haven't seen it in 25 years." She didn't elaborate. She rose abruptly and tugged the service bell. Bryce reappeared almost instantly. "Bryce, ask the staff again. Someone must have seen a visitor, any visitor. Check the garden door, the side passage, everywhere." "Of course, madam." Clara paced to the mantel, pressed the envelope to her chest, then turned it over. A broken red wax seal gleamed on the back, stamped with an oak leaf. Evelyn couldn't see it clearly from her chair, but she didn't need to. The detail hit Clara like a wind. "I'm being foolish," Clara murmured. "It's only a letter, only paper." But she still wouldn't open it. When Bryce returned, he wasn't alone. Young Maggie Cole hovered behind him, pale, worried. "Speak, Maggie," Bryce said. The girl curtsied. "Please, ma'am, it was me. A gentleman knocked at the garden door. Said it was too cold to walk to the front. He handed me the letter and gave me a coin and told me not to trouble anyone. Said it were urgent for you, ma'am." "What did he look like?" Evelyn asked gently. Maggie swallowed. "Tallish. Wore a scarf round his face. Spoke proper. I didn't see much. He walked off toward the lane." "You may go," Clara said. "And Maggie, next time you report every caller." The girl fled. Clara set the envelope on the table but still didn't open it. Her fear had deepened into something stranger. "If I tell you something, Evelyn, you won't judge me." My dear, I've lived in a village. I've seen humanity from every angle. Judging is inefficient. Clara managed a thin smile. The seal, that oak leaf, it belonged to Rowan Hale. Evelyn waited. I knew him when I was 19, Clara continued. Before Arthur. It was brief and foolish, and he left after complications. He vanished from England. I haven't heard his name spoken aloud since. Before Evelyn could reply, hurried steps broke the moment. Bryce appeared again, his face strained. Madam Maggie Cole is missing, Clara straightened. Missing. She was expected for evening duties. Mrs. Potts sent another girl to fetch her. Maggie's room is empty. Her coat and bicycle are gone. Clara pressed a hand to her throat. Without permission, without a word. She seemed uneasy earlier, Mrs. Potts said, agitated. Evelyn rose, slow but purposeful. Did she leave anything behind that suggested where she went? Nothing, miss. I checked. Clara turned to the envelope, then away again. Evelyn, this can't be coincidence. No, Evelyn said. It cannot. They both looked toward the tall windows. Outside, dusk thickened over Ravenhill Manor, and somewhere in that growing darkness, a frightened girl was riding into the cold with no destination, running from a man with a scarf and a red wax seal from a past she never knew existed. But whether she ran by choice or because someone urged her was a different question entirely. Clara lowered herself into a chair. Evelyn, what do? We start, Evelyn said, by opening that letter. Clara reached for the envelope as if lifting something far heavier than paper. She broke the seal with a brittle snap, unfolded the single sheet, and her brows knit in confusion rather than fear. It's nothing, she murmured, or it's everything, I can't tell. She handed it to Evelyn. The writing was elegant but shaky. Clara, the past isn't buried. He knows he's coming. Trust no one. Not even those who remember you kindly. Destroy this. Our Evelyn read it twice before returning it. Rowan Hale, she asked quietly. Yes, Clara whispered. But Rowan would be nearly 50 now, and he wasn't the cryptic sort. Evelyn resumed her seat. Tell me the truth, Clara, the real truth. Clara hesitated only a moment. Rowan and I were engaged secretly for a few months. My parents disapproved. Then there was a financial mess involving his partner, accusations flying everywhere. Rowan fled England. I never saw him again. And you believe this letter is from him? I don't know. The handwriting feels right, but the tone, the secrecy, that wasn't Rowan. Clara pressed her palms to her eyes. I told him things when I was young, foolish things. Not scandalous, just private. If someone pretended to be him, they could use those details to rattle me. Before Evelyn could speak, Bryce returned once more. Madam, the groom's boy has found Maggie Cole's bicycle, abandoned near the south gate. The front wheel is badly bent. Any sign of Maggie? Clara asked, rising. No, madam. Evelyn felt a familiar shift inside her, the moment when a quiet puzzle tilted into something sharper. Bryce, she said, was the bicycle lying in the mud or was it standing? Leaning neatly against the gatepost, miss. Evelyn exchanged a look with Clara. Girls in panic don't stage theatrical accidents, Evelyn murmured. Clara nodded slowly. Someone wanted us to believe Maggie crashed. And someone wanted us distracted, Evelyn added. By her disappearance or by the letter or both. Clara's composure cracked. Then we call the police. Of course. But let's first gather what they won't. A few minutes later, the inspector, a practical man named Harlan, arrived, listened, frowned, and delivered a predictable verdict. Runaway, he said. Young maids do it all the time. She'll come home when she's hungry. After he left, Clara bristled. He thinks we're hysterical. He thinks in averages, Evelyn said. Averages are useful but rarely correct in particular cases. Clara sank into a chair. Jane, Evelyn, what on earth is happening? Evelyn lifted the envelope again and examined the back. A faint smear of reddish clay streaked one corner. This mud, she said. It matches the clay by the train station footpath. Whoever delivered this walked from the station or wanted us to think they did. But why? To construct a trail, Evelyn said. A convenient one, visible enough for a butler or a postmistress to recall. Clara swallowed. You think someone is impersonating Rowan. I think someone expects you to react as if it is Rowan. Evelyn's gaze moved to the window. Out beyond the trees, the fading light stretched cold across the grounds. "And Maggie," Clara whispered. "Where is she?" Evelyn picked up her coat. "Upstairs, Clara, Maggie's room. That's where our next answers will be." Clara blinked. "Why her room?" "Because frightened girls hide things before they run. Or before someone helps them run." Evelyn opened the door. "And something tells me Maggie hid more than she meant to." Maggie Cole's room was too tidy. Evelyn saw it at once. Not the normal neatness of a maid in training, but the stiff order of something arranged. The bed was tight. The brush and comb were lined up. 3 hairpins lay in a straight row. "Evelyn," Clara whispered, "she was never this neat." "No," Evelyn said. "She wanted this to look untouched." The top drawer held folded undergarments. The second, aprons squared like files. In the deepest drawer, under a wool shawl, Evelyn's fingers met something stiff. A torn scrap of cream paper. She took it to the window. The paper matched the envelope downstairs. Even the faint oak leaf watermark showed along the torn edge. 3 words had survived a hard attempt to scratch them out. "Don't trust him." Clara caught her breath. So Maggie opened the letter. "Or this came from a different one," Evelyn said. "The folds don't match what you received. Someone sent Maggie a note of her own, or slipped in a message meant only for her." She slid the scrap into her pocket. She hid it instead of burning it. That means she thought it might save her. The wardrobe held 2 dresses and an old coat left behind. On the top shelf sat a cardboard box, a bluebird brooch, a dance card, and letters from home. Evelyn read the last one. "Remember what I told you about men with smooth tongues and old grievances." "Not a general warning," she said. "That's about someone real, someone carrying history, maybe with this house, or with the family who had it before you." "The Hales," Clara said. "Rowan's people," Evelyn answered. "And Mrs. Cole's mother worked here for them, didn't she?" "How do you know that?" "Because a Cole girl is back in service here," Evelyn said. "And her mother writes about old grievances as if they live in the walls." They found Mrs. Cole in the morning room, crushing a handkerchief in both hands. "Please, ma'am," she said at once. "They say my Maggie's run off, but she wouldn't, not without a word." "You did get a word," Evelyn said. 3 of them." Mrs. Cole handed over a small, crumpled scrap. "He found me." "When did this arrive?" Evelyn asked. "Yesterday's post," Mrs. Cole said. "I didn't see what it meant till they came saying she was gone." "Recently," Evelyn said, "a man's been in Northbridge asking about Ravenhill." Mrs. Cole swallowed. "Tall, thin, scar on his right cheek. Spoke nice, like a gentleman. Asked who owns the manor now, who works there, whether any of the old staff's kin had posts. My Maggie saw him watching the shop and the road to the estate. It frightened her." "So you warned her," Evelyn said, "about smooth tongues and old grievances." "I told her if a man comes back after years still angry, you keep away," Mrs. Cole whispered. "My mum told me that from her days in this house." Clara looked stricken. "Then Maggie was never just the new maid." "No," Evelyn said. "Someone wanted a Cole inside Ravenhill when that letter arrived. Someone who knew old stories and chose the bloodline on purpose." Her hand touched the pocket where the torn scrap rested. "Don't trust him." And still, they didn't know which him Maggie had been warned about. Frost turned the gravel outside Ravenhill pale and hard. Evelyn liked cold mornings. They made lies show at the edges. "Bryce," she said after breakfast, "show us where Maggie met him." He led them to the garden door. Beyond the stone step the earth was reddish clay, its surface cracked by fresh footprints. "There, miss," Bryce said. 2 sets. Smaller prints came from inside, stopped just outside the doorway, then turned back in. Larger prints faced them and led away a few yards. "These are Maggie's," Evelyn said. "She stepped out, stood still, then went back. She never walked off." "And his?" Clara asked. The larger prints were wrong. The right foot sank deeper than the left, the stride was crooked. "A limp," Clara whispered. "Rowan always limped." "Or someone heard that and copied it," Evelyn said. The big prints ended near the path. Beside the last one, half buried in clay, metal showed. Evelyn bent and lifted a brass button with her handkerchief. An oak leaf was stamped into it. Clara stared. "That's from Rowan's coat. Or from whoever owns it now," Evelyn said. She slipped the button into her pocket beside the scrap that read "Don't trust him." Bryce cleared his throat. "Those marks weren't there last night, miss. I checked after the inspector left. The ground was smooth." "So our limping stranger came back," Evelyn said. They went back through the kitchen. In the morning room, Mrs. Cole sat on the edge of a chair, gloves twisted. "Mrs. Cole," Evelyn said, "before the scarred man, did anyone else ask about this house in Northbridge?" Mrs. Cole frowned. "There was another gentleman weeks ago. No scar, younger, bought tea. Said his folk used to visit when the Hales owned Ravenhill. Spoke like he knew it." "Name?" Evelyn asked. "Signed as Thomas Hale," Mrs. Cole said. "Said he was kin. Asked if any daughters of the old staff worked here now. Asked about my Maggie, very polite. Said it would be right for her to serve where her blood had served." Her voice shook. "I thought it was kindness." "So he already knew your mother worked here," Evelyn said. "Yes, miss. I never told him. He arrived with that." Clara's face tightened. "Rowan had a cousin Thomas, clever, charming." "If someone wanted a Cole girl in this house by a certain week," Evelyn said, "that's how he'd do it. Make it feel like duty." Mrs. Cole swallowed. "Did I send her straight to danger?" "You sent her to work," Evelyn said. "Someone else wrapped danger round the work." Bryce appeared again in the doorway. "Madam, the post office rang. Mrs. Dyer says a gentleman matching the scarred man posted a registered parcel to you on Tuesday, addressed here. It hasn't arrived. She thinks that odd." "So do I," Evelyn said. She stood. "Clara, we should see her." "What do you expect to learn?" Clara asked. "Whether our scarred man exists anywhere off paper," Evelyn said, "and whether the scar is real or just part of the costume." She opened the door. "Because maybe the point isn't who he is," she added, "but who gains from us being afraid of him." The post office in Northbridge was a narrow brick building with a bell that rang far too loudly when they entered. Mrs. Dyer, the postmistress, looked up from her ledger with the expression of someone who already knew which question was coming. "Ah," she said, "you're here about the tall fellow." Clara stiffened. "The scarred man." Mrs. Dyer pursed her lips. "Scarred? No, not that I saw. Clean-shaven, well-spoken, wore a gray coat. If he had a scar, it must have been painted on the day you describe, because on Tuesday his face was smooth as mine." Evelyn exchanged a quiet glance with Clara. "Tell us about the parcel," Evelyn said. Mrs. Dyer turned the ledger. "Registered, heavy. He paid in cash, precise count. The address was the manor. He said it contained documents the lady of the house had been waiting for. I asked if he wanted insurance. He said no need, she'll know what to do when she opens it." Odd thing to say. "And then it disappeared," Clara murmured. Mrs. Dyer nodded grimly. "Left with the carrier, never arrived. I've filed a report, but between us, something felt wrong from the start. He watched me address the receipt too closely, as if timing me." Evelyn closed the ledger softly. "Mrs. Dyer, if he had no scar Tuesday but a scar Friday." "Makeup," Mrs. Dyer said immediately. "I've seen boys paint wounds for the theater, and he walked with a limp so dramatic it looked borrowed." Back outside, Clara exhaled hard. "So our scarred man is a costume?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "A performance meant to spook Maggie, rattle you, and send us chasing shadows. And someone else, maybe Thomas Hale, if that was even his real name, played the opposite role. Friendly lineage, family ties, the man Maggie would trust." Clara hugged her coat around her. "Evelyn, why Maggie? Why the Coles?" "Because the Cole line knows the Hale past," Evelyn said. "And whoever is orchestrating this believes Maggie might have heard something. Some old family truth passed down from her grandmother. Something worth frightening her into silence." They went back to the manor. The sky had dimmed to metallic gray. The house loomed like a held breath. Inside, Bryce waited in the hall, his usually steady hands tight behind his back. "Miss Hart," he said quietly, "there's something else. Earlier this afternoon, I found this tucked behind the umbrella stand." He handed Evelyn another envelope, cream, heavy, unsealed. No wax, no handwriting on the outside. Clara stepped back. "Where did that come from?" "I cannot say, madam. It wasn't there during morning rounds, I'm certain." Evelyn opened it. One sheet, 3 words, "She's not alone." Clara's voice broke. "Evelyn, is that about Maggie?" "Maybe," Evelyn said. "Or maybe it's about us. A warning or a taunt." She turned the paper. A faint smear of blue chalk dust clung to one corner. "Chalk," Evelyn murmured. "Railway workers use it on cargo crates and stagehands and map markers. Someone who moves between places without being noticed." Clara steadied herself on the table. "This is escalating." "Yes," Evelyn said, "because we're too close to whatever they're hiding." Mrs. Potts hurried in, breathless. "Madam, there's someone outside the east lawn, a girl running along the hedge." Clara's eyes widened. "Maggie!" But when they rushed to the window, the figure was already gone, just a flutter of dark fabric disappearing into the trees. "It could be her," Clara whispered. "It looked like her." "Or it was meant to," Evelyn said, "to draw us out, to test how quickly we react." A tap sounded at the door. Bryce opened it. A delivery boy stood there, hat askew, cheeks red from cold. "Parcel for Mrs. Redford," he said. "Paid delivery. Man in a gray coat sent it from the station. Said it was urgent." Evelyn took the package. It was small, wrapped in brown paper, tied with twine. Clara's hands trembled. "Evelyn, should we open it?" "We should," Evelyn said, "because someone is controlling the tempo of this game and I want the next move." She cut the twine, peeled back the paper, and froze. Inside lay Maggie's apron, clean, carefully folded, and beneath it a single train ticket, outbound, one way, printed for yesterday's date. Name handwritten on top, Maggie Cole. Clara whispered, "So she was meant to leave." "No," Evelyn said softly. "She was meant to vanish in a way that makes us believe she left." She held the ticket up to the light. At the bottom corner, written faintly in pencil, was one more message, too small for Clara to notice, but Evelyn saw it immediately. "Don't let him find me first." Maggie hadn't run blindly. She'd been trying to warn them all along. The train ticket lay between them. "Yesterday's date," Clara said. "They'll say she ran away." "Maggie doesn't write 'he found me' and then calmly take a train," Evelyn said. On the edge in faint pencil, "Don't let him find me first." "She's hiding from one man," Evelyn said, "and someone else she expects later, the one directing her." "Thomas Hale?" Clara asked. "He chose her, warned her, sent a ticket she never used," Evelyn replied. "If anyone finds her first, it should be us." Mrs. Cole had mentioned her mother up by the North Wood near the old gamekeeper's cottage. If that was the family story, that was where Safe lived. "Bryce," Evelyn said, "we're going to the North Wood." The cottage crouched at the tree line, a thin line of smoke above it. Evelyn knocked. "If it's him, go away," a small voice said. "Maggie, it's Miss Hart." "Mrs. Redford is here." The latch lifted. Maggie's pale face appeared. When she saw Clara, she fell into her arms. "I did what he told me," she sobbed. "I stayed hidden. I didn't mean to cause trouble." Inside, blanket, lantern, crate. On the crate lay 3 notes. "Stay put. Don't trust him. I'll come when it's safe. T. Thomas," Clara breathed. "Or whoever used the name," Evelyn said. "Maggie, did you ever see his face clearly?" "Once," Maggie said. "No scarf. I'd seen the scarred man in the village, so I thought it was different. But when Thomas talked, it sounded the same. And when he rubbed his cheek once, there was no scar at all." "So the rescuer and the monster are the same man," Evelyn said. "He invented both to keep you scared and grateful." Footsteps crunched outside. "He's back," Evelyn murmured. "Stay behind me." "Maggie," a man called. "It's Thomas. Is everything?" Evelyn opened the door. Gray coat, practiced limp, clean cheek. "Mrs. Dyer remembers you," Evelyn said. "No scar Tuesday, big scar Friday. Somewhere in between you bought red wax and a story." His eyes flicked from Evelyn to Clara to Maggie. Then he dropped the pretense. "The Hales built this house," he said. "Redfords bought it cheap after my uncle went under." "By turning a girl into bait," Evelyn said. "You used the Cole name because you thought she knew some old secret. She doesn't, but she's heard your voice in both masks." Boots sounded on the path. Bryce appeared behind him with Inspector Harlan. Evelyn had left a note before they left. "Mr. Hale," the inspector said, "that will do." Back at Ravenhill, Maggie sat wrapped in a shawl, Clara beside her. "You'll stay," Clara said, "not as someone who can vanish, as someone we look after." "Yes, ma'am," Maggie whispered. Evelyn watched the fire. "Fear is useful," she said. "But if someone else chooses what you fear and when, they're the one running you." Then she looked straight ahead. "If you'd been in Maggie's place, who would you have trusted first? The man with the obvious scar or the polite cousin with the right last name?" If this story kept you to the end, hit subscribe and like this video. And tell me in the comments which clue made you suspect the truth first.